Now, very first story, convener of the Fix a Country movement, the movement that brought Ibrahim Kaka's issue to the fore, has rejected the position by the Justice Kumsing-led committee. The findings of the committee have distanced the death from a social activism. Oliver Bakavomo says the committee erred in this regard. He's been speaking on the AM show.
I mean, it's straining absurdity for them, and particularly when you have a justice of the Court of Appeal sitting on a committee like this, to be doing a foray into matters as to who killed Kaka and the circumstances that led to Kaka's death. If you remember very well from the proceedings of the committee, the widow of Kaka had asked the committee clearly on record whether the committee was looking into who killed Kaka and the circumstances related to his death. The committee was very clear that they had no mandate to look into the matter. And so to do this, when we know very well that somebody is in, or certain persons are in police custody, have been arraigned before court, have been remanded, and that there's an active murder investigation going on relating to the death of Kaka, one would think, even if you're not legally aware, that common sense would lead you into a direction whereby you'd make the determination that all that is necessary for our determination here is today is why did the people of Ejura come out to protest? They themselves say in the report that the reason why the youth did that was because of the incompetencies around the investigation into the attack on Kaka's life. Now, that is sufficient alone to coming out for people who said that the police are not doing enough regarding the reports that have been made to them on the death of a person of repute in the community. You have no business, zero business, going into determining whether or not the widow of Kaka, by the fact that she did not report the threat on the husband's life, for which reason she's not credible for some reason. How many of us have been in a situation and refused to report those instances to the police? Just a couple of days ago, Andrea Owusu, who's a socialite known as Ifeodo, has come out and said that the reason why she was not at the Face the Country demonstration was because she received threats on her life that people were going to pour acid on her at the demonstration. She chose not to attend the demonstration, but did not go on to report to the police. For so many reasons, we all understand that every time we go to the police, that our experiences with the police do not put us in a situation where we are confident that they take anything you tell them seriously, or two, they send you off to go and investigate and find the house of a suspect and then pay their fuel and transportation for them to go and arrest the person. And so the determination whether or not you wanted to report a threat on a life to the police is not a basis for determining whether or not a threat is credible or not credible. But beyond that, they themselves have gone on and said the reasons why the persons came out is one, that the police failed to act properly. Two, they provoked the people by sending the military van, the water cannon, to the cemetery where Kaka was being buried. They said that themselves. So I do not see what benefit it gives or what clarity it gives as to why the persons died and the violence that was unleashed on the community of Ejura.
Director of the Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Professor Kwesi Enning, has also called for a complete overhaul of the security intelligence system in the country. He has been speaking on Prime Morning following the release of the report.
My only sort of discomfort with the report and its recommendations is that although it was an Ejura-specific committee, particularly the recommendations about the dismissal of the MCE, the training of DCEs, and then district security councils and metropolitan security councils ought not to have been limited to Ashanti region, I think. As Honorable Tobu argues, the underpinning tensions, not about the death per se, but the speed with which anger boiled over, the failure of intelligence and their incapacity to analyze, the weakness of security governance decision-making from the police commander to the district or the metropolitan chief executive, all the way to the regional minister, demonstrates this complexity of interlocking failures.
Right.
And we've seen it in other parts of the country where security decision-making is either slow, is based on false or faulty intelligence, is based on weak analysis, offering very poor options for response. Flaws were right from when the victim was brutalized, the urge or the expectation of the community and the family, a duty of care, the lack of sensitivity by the police commander, the failure of the National Intelligence Bureau individual for the area also, the municipal chief executives' disgraceful, dismissive, unacceptable behavior, and that intelligence flaw or the break in the intelligence cycle was that it took the minister a considerable number of days for him to intervene. And that intervention was limited to a military option, which was most unfortunate.
Former Secretary to the IGP and member of the Defense Committee, Peter Tobu, called for political will to decisively implement the recommendations made by the Justice Kumsing Committee of Inquiry.
I also want to thank His Excellency the President with the agency with which he set up that committee, even though many of us argued we perhaps would have preferred a presidential commission instead of a ministerial committee. But so be it. He's done it, and then the report has been submitted. I think, as Professor Kwesini has said, sometimes it's just a matter of assuaging and letting people verify. Whatever it is, the report has been submitted. The people who sat on this committee, fantastic 3 people, okay? And they did a good job. The report has been submitted. The president wanted it to be done within 10 days. They did it more than the 10 days. And I saw that agency in the president. And I'm so shocked that after the report has been submitted, since the 27th of July up to now, the white paper is yet to be out. And sometimes I ask myself, what was actually the agency the president wanted to demonstrate when he demanded that report in 10 days?
Right.
And as we all know, it's just a political decision to assuage the pain, reduce the tension, and probably do something that can be lasting. We are waiting for the presidential white paper to come out, government white paper to come out, and let's see whether the white paper can ensure that what the committee intended to achieve, to make recommendations to prevent such happenings in the future. Is it possible to prevent it with this report? Is it possible to prevent it with the recommendations? Is it possible to prevent it with government white paper? We're yet to get there.
In other news, there was near chaos between members of the Minority Caucus on Parliament Select Committee on Health and some armed military officers are there yet to be completed at Fryer Military Hospital in the Ashanti region Monday, when the officers stationed at the facility denied the MPs access. The soldiers are said to have told the caucus, which is embarking on unannounced visits to some abandoned health projects in parts of the country, they needed clearance from their officers at the military high command. The minority MPs on the committee, however, called the bluff of the officers embarked on the tour, which revealed over 100 gas cylinders, several medical equipment, among others, being left at the mercy of the weather. Let's first bring you a brief of the scuffle between the two, and then we'll speak with our correspondent who is on the tour with the MPs.
Will you listen to us?
Let's.
If I'm not listening, like I'm not listening.
Let's.
No, we are people. You have identified.
Let me finish.
As a member of parliament.
Let me finish.
Yes. And the way we also do our work is that for public facilities. We don't need permission. Yes. No, we don't need.
It is very important.
We need our ID cards, and I'm happy that you have identified a candidate.
Listen,
Daddy, I'm coming. So your rules.
I'm coming. I'm coming. Don't worry. Daddy, Sergeant, listen to me. You're speaking to me in your own interest. I know you are receiving instructions from your people, and I'm giving you this harmless advice.
The rules
you are struggling to protect your leaders, but in your own interest, in order not to escalate anything, let's handle it the way you want us to handle it. Let's finish what we are doing here. We will all go to engage whoever we want to engage. I am telling you, that if you do anything more than this, your leaders whom you have spoken to will blame you at the end of the day. So please, with the greatest respect, they will blame you. They will sacrifice you at the end of the day. Okay, just stand here.
And for me, you have not identified me.
Please, if we should go to him, no problem. Let's finish what we are doing here. We can all go. Okay. We are granting an interview here. Once we finish, we are almost done. So when we finish, we will go.
Mr. Kando.
Yes.
With all due respect,
I gave you the maximum respect. Listen, you see,
I beg you in the name of God. Let's go to the site engineer.
I don't have a problem. Going to the site engineer is not a problem. I'm saying that we can't go to a site engineer and come back here again. Please, I'm coming. We can't go to the site engineer.
My shoe.
I don't have a problem. I have not disagreed with you. Listen to me carefully. Whatever I'm saying, I know what I'm talking about. I have not disagreed with you. It's nothing harmful going to the site engineer. I'm saying we will go. But you know the distance from that gate to this place. You can be here. Let's finish. We will go to the site engineer. I mean, it's a very
I've understood you.
Good.
So what I'm saying is good. You see, one, he also has to seek clearance.
No problem. I'm saying that whatever explanation.
What I'm saying is we have something
so they all go together.
Let me tell you something. We are more. Please.
I didn't want to go to that extent. I wanted to know why.
Let me give you something before you come in. Let me talk before you come in. This afternoon there was.
Kwesi Parker Wilson is with the minority MPs and joins us live. Parker, so how was this issue eventually resolved yesterday?
So, Israel, yesterday, the military, the armed military men there understood that these are individuals from Parliament, and Parliament as an institution have the right to inspect projects across the country. And so they understood and finally gave way for the minority MPs to go and inspect the project, after which we spread up to a different location. But as I speak to you...
But Parker, before we come to that, what was it that was told them that convinced them to eventually allow the MPs in?
Oh, the point about the individuals being members of parliament, and indeed the military themselves were able to identify them. They identified Mintaka Kando as the ranking on the health committee, and also Honorable Elizabeth Ajari as well, together with other minority MPs. So because of that, they understood that parliament as an institution have the right to do what they have to do, and they don't need any clearance from any individual, because parliament is an authority, an arm of government, and that they can't walk into a facility and check the status or the progress of that facility. That was when the militarymen, the armed militarymen, I should say, decided to allow the members of parliament to go and inspect the project, Israel. And
then I'm also curious, why is it that it's just the minority members or the minority caucus that's doing this? Why don't they have the full complement of the committee, for instance?
Right, so Israel, let me bounce that information and ask the ranking member on the health committee with that particular question. Why is it that it is not the health committee that is inspecting all the abandoned health facilities across the country, but rather the minority caucus of the health committee?
Israel, I remember we did this same trip about 2 or 3 years ago. And so it's just to go back and ascertain for ourselves whether or not there has been improvement over what we saw last 2 or 3 years. But you see, let's face it, and then, let us not be hypocrites, or let us not pretend that it has always been the responsibility of the minority to put the government in power in check. I mean, when NDC is in power, you obviously be hearing and seeing more from the MPP. And when the MPP is in power, you'll be hearing some of this, especially when you want to expose the ills in the community or in the country. You will usually not get the support from those in government. So for me, I don't think it's a big deal at all. What is most important is that what is happening, we have gone to the various facilities to get first-hand information. We've got a fact, and whatever we need to do as members of parliament, we are going to pursue it on the floor of the House.
But did you consult with the majority members of on the health committee with regards to this inspection? Because you are saying that the minister has said that there has not been any abandoned health facility across the country.
Exactly. Well, we've been talking, but I do not want to say it on record that we have invited the majority members to be part of this trip. But just as you know, even as an individual member of parliament, no law stops you from undertaking your lawful duty. In fact, probably you may not know this, but It is part of the responsibility of every member of parliament to monitor any project in this country. It's part of our responsibility. Okay, so nothing stops any member of parliament from monitoring any project in this country, even as an individual, let alone a group on a whole parliamentary select committee on health. And especially when consistently the minister and people in government have been saying that no project in this country has been abandoned. The good people of this country, they must know the truth. They need to know the truth. They deserve to know the truth. So we decided to go down to the various facilities to ascertain for ourselves the realities on the ground.
Now, finally, for me, we visited a few facilities. We've seen the situation there. Should there be a full-scale inquiry into why government has decided to probably let these facilities go without attending them?
It's just unimaginable. And I believe that almost all of you, including the press, everybody is devastated. I mean, I'm lost of words. I think that if government indeed respects the good people of this country and is very sensitive to the plight of the people in the country, something must be done about
Should
this.
Should there be a parliamentary process?
I think that going back, these are some of the issues we are going to discuss in parliament, because we cannot allow the funds or the coffers of this country go down into the drain like this. I mean, 5 years leaving these structures to the mercy of the weather, and the structures are deteriorating. You have seen it for yourself. Some of them have been ripped off. Some of them very nasty scenes. You have seen them, Spirogara, and some of them even a whole trees are germinating in the buildings. So for me, it's a serious matter that we need to open a whole debate on it. If there's a need for us to file a motion, a private member motion, we will have to do it. It's more than you see, and it's more than I think what Ghanaians know. It's more serious.
Thank you very much. Minta Kando is the ranking member on Parliament's Health Committee, and then he's the one leading the chat. Israel, if you can see the roofing system there, it's been ripped off. It's one of the projects, and we are told by the security men on the ground that even some of the buildings are falling off. So they have decided to support it with some metal to keep the Abetifi Referral Hospital in shape. So this is the current situation where we are. From here, we are going to a different destination. So for the minority, they say they will not relent on its effort until they see something being done. And just as I heard the ranking member say, there's going to be a full-scale parliamentary inquiry into the abandoned health facilities by the NPP administration.
All right, thank you very much, Kwesi Parker Wilson. Moving on, Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahing, says government is in the process of acquiring a new presidential jet, explaining the current presidential jet is inadequate for foreign travels. He made the announcement during a news conference at the Presidency Monday. According to Eugene Ahing, the Minister of Defense, Dominic Nituola, has already started the process.
In 2008, it had procured 2 jets, the current Falcon, and then a bigger Embraer, if I'm not mistaken. And for one reason or another, the bigger jet was cancelled, and we were left with this particular one here. I don't know what I mean. Obviously, it would have made much more economic sense to keep the bigger one, because obviously when that happens, when you're traveling with your delegation, and as you know, you don't have to send media people ahead of time. All of you can just go at a go. Saves cost and everything. But well, it has happened, and you collect that the Minister for Defense has made it clear that government has decided to buy a bigger jet to save us from all these troubles. I wouldn't want to go into details. I'm sure when the Minister for Defense has the opportunity to give further information as to what government is doing with respect to that, I'm sure he'll do that. But I know for a fact that, yes, as he has rightly indicated, government is already in the process of acquiring a bigger jet for use.
Mr. Ahin also argued that Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Kudjo Tuablakwa, peddled falsehood in his recent claims that President Akufo-Addo rented a luxurious private jet for his recent travels to the UK and Germany.
All of us know that in the course of this year, the president has not embarked on any such trip like that. So again, one would ask the question, where did the North Tongue Member of Parliament get his information from? Obviously, if I'm to use his own words, he peddled naked untruths. And if there's somebody who has to apologize to the people of Ghana for peddling such falsehoods and such untruths, it's definitely him. And as I've made it clear, if he says he has contrary evidence to what I'm saying, to the effect that on the 28th of July and the 23rd of August at the Global Education Summit and at the G20 Compact with Africa program, that jet was nowhere near President Akufo-Addo. If he thinks he has any contrary evidence to that effect, he should put it out. I've put mine out, so the ball is in his court.
Now, in part one of the investigative report, Manasseh Azure, a winner of the Fourth Estate, reveals how a health practitioner used his facility and practices bait to sexually assault scores of women who went there seeking treatment. In 2018, a woman and her husband walked into Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center, Agbawi in Accra, to seek the healing hand of a man. Let's watch this.
When I do it continuously, I get sexually unstable.
He starts by massaging and inserts his entire hand in my vagina. And sometimes I felt his hand in my womb.
I think I'm not the first victim, according to the rumor I heard. I believe that is something probably he does to innocent women or wives, people who come seeking medical attention.
And it's random. It's not like every woman I see.
He came inside and then he hugged me. Then things got more intense. He was touching me, kissing my butt, fondling my butt, and trying to find his way inside my vagina.
I noticed that he was actually massaging my buttocks and inserting his fingers into my vagina. The next I knew, it was his penis.
It comes to me as a surprise. I am not aware of any, condition, and in this case, you said lumbar spondylosis. I am not aware of any such condition that would require the patient to be sexually aroused before treatment can be administered. No, it is a surprise.
Things go on, so I'm really surprised.
You're saying it's not true?
If it's really true, I should be in jail by now.
In 2018, Ifwa, a 30-year-old banker, not her real identity, was introduced to a specialist when she and her husband needed a child. The couple had suffered a traumatic loss and hoped this specialist would help restore their joy.
We have here Dr. Jonathan Ohinin Nkunim of the Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center at Bali. Doc, welcome to the show.
Initially, I was kind of reluctant since I didn't really know how he used to operate. I decided to give it a try. I was there at the clinic, and actually, he doesn't do the normal diagnosis that you'll be asked to do a lab and those things. He actually has a way. He checks, I don't know whether your pulse or something behind your palm, which looks strange, but that's how he's able to tell if you have a condition or not. He said he learned it in China.
There's the back of the hand, and it has like 360 points.
Okay.
There, so if I want to check this, I want to check how you sleep, so I check the pulse and the nerve points. And
okay, so what are you checking now?
I'm checking your sleep ratio, actually.
My sleep ratio?
Yes.
Okay, and?
4 hours, 35 minutes, give or take 10 minutes.
Yesterday?
Yes, last night to this morning.
These guys are perfect. No, I didn't sleep early. I stayed up late because I was working on a script. So.
And today your eating has been a bit off. You've taken a lot of water, which is good, but your eating is...
Yes, I've taken a lot of water today. Yes. And I've just eaten once, something very little.
Okay. Okay, but all in all, you have a very good pulse. Your heart is very, very good.
My heart is good.
Very, very circulation is good.
Is a liar.
I won't say 100%, but some were kind of accurate, so. And he mentioned that I had a problem with my cervix and that kind of thing. So I needed to do a procedure which would help me to conceive once therapy had been done. I asked what the therapy was about, and he said he had to insert like a probe into my reproductive vagina, let me put it that way. sort of manipulate certain things there before I would be able to conceive.
Ifwa was not comfortable with the procedure, but it is said that a woman in labor does not hide her private parts from the birth attendant. She was in dire need of a child and had to give in to the requirements of the treatment despite her misgivings about the specialist and the discomfort involved in the procedure.
According to him, before the procedure has to be done, you need to, if you're with your partner has to get you aroused so that your cervix can open. It also sounded strange to me, but I was like, okay, I also want a baby, and if this is what the doctor is saying, of course I need to give it a try.
The facility was not conducive for Ifwa to be aroused by her husband, but as I later found out, that prescription was a bait, a trap which Jonathan Ohenin-Kunim employed in order to violate women who visited his facility. Once the woman could not be aroused, he would then take over that responsibility.
He inserted something like a probe, I don't know what it was, into me, and he kept doing his own thing there. So at a point, he would ask my partner that he probably should go and buy ice block or something. And I realized that it's more like, though he didn't penetrate, it was more like he was trying to have sex with me, trying to play with me. He was trying to play with me down there, getting me aroused, and I wasn't feeling comfortable.
Right, so the licensed sex predator, that is at 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. right here on the JoyNews channel. We're taking a short break here on News Desk. We'll be back with you in a bit. Now, more houses along the coastline at Glife within the Ablekuma West municipality have been washed away by strong waves from the sea. Last week, about 7 houses collapsed as a result of the devastating sea erosion in the area, exposing the only health facility in the area as the next in line. Manuel Coranting, reporter this, is back in the community for an update on the situation. Let's go live now to Manuel.
Great, so in just about 24 hours, close to 3 more houses have been demolished here at the shoreline at Glife. Indeed, the people here are left distressed and, stranded. For most of them, they are having to loiter around, spend the night in the open air at the mercy of the weather. Themselves, their children, their wives, or even husbands all together. I'm not going to do the talking. I'm going to take you through to speak to some of the residents here who, are facing this particular challenge. In the past 24 hours to 48 hours, we've been reporting to you about how devastating the sea erosion here at the shoreline at Glife has been. This old lady is one of the victims, and she's been telling me off camera about how she's been spending the night.
Ami abia na yan storm. Aga cho ko mon tuen fen mbe ko kama wo yan storm. O won pa fa ko ni anya face the face awo. Ko ni won wanya wo ngmulo po wakala no wanya wo.
She te balete ni nye bia ni insho kumo nye ni bi nye bia lolo.
Face insho ya shon. Dan wo ba bi e. O ba ko insho dan cho ba yi shi dan do ba yin ke ya dan do ba ni na insho. She not born a see defense and if I can why he could not share when the pressure back on one I be under Kakumo to D.
What I tell you?
Me ana 80.
Ana 80. Oh, he be a that for baby and oil.
Oh, that be why I could than what fair than what I be.
What he be a
oh, why I be a Maguaka modern. 7 years to 8 years.
And so she's been telling me that they've been living here for about 8 years or so, and that the sea has taken down their house, and so now she lives in a store which is right ahead of this particular point, and she lives there. And this lady also has a baby. Of an
4 years.
4 months.
4 months.
Obilena 4 months. One bokelewo.
Of an what true kumo biane waben wash. Biane what true kumo ben war.
The true kumo, you better know here in Benekenewo.
What you are by what you are by no come war.
And you are buying there. So she's been telling me that they have to, put up a tent to pass the night at the mercy of the weather, together with this baby she's holding, a 4-month-old baby, right here at the shoreline of the Glyphe area. I'm going to move around because I've seen now that just in the past couple of minutes that we arrived here, there's, an excavator that is carrying some of the rocks and then some of the boulders and putting them just across the shoreline, something the semblance of a temporary, protection for them. What be any neon again? I mean about our near
1 town affair take a wow. There no 1 town affair. She won't be 1 paffa, ya fair take a wow.
And so that's what she's saying. So she's been telling me that they are hoping that as they've started, they'll continue with the polders that they are lining up right across this point, so that it becomes, some protective shield for them against the violent waves. But now, though, there's an issue that we reported to you in the past couple of days, the issue of sand winning, and I was seeing some blocks having molded here. We're told, in fact, what we gather is that they use the sand right from the shore to mold the blocks. That's something that the contractor has been telling us off, a camera, that is an issue that's disturbing the progress of the work. We'll try and get some responses to that, but I see, a crowd gathering right ahead of me, and as I get a bit closer to the area, try to speak to a few of them to get a sense of how really the situation has been in the past couple of days since we moved away from here and brought you that story of the sea erosion situation here at Glyphe. And so at this side of town, the women, the children, really are the ones who are bearing the brunt of the waves. Let me speak to some of the gentlemen who are here and gathering around. I remember this gentleman from about a week ago when we were here. In Nake, yani wakebo say I've been kukra.
It tells you like every blessed day, Nuchumo, ensure if it in Kenya, and that is the main reason why. That is the main reason why we are also fighting for this protection. That is the main reason why every blessed day ensure a fight, a destroy any be okay. I feel no koya immediately, but we don't know what to say. The whole town will just go off.
But he's been saying that the room where he used to live is being totally torn down, and this is in just less than a week since we visited the area.
Biane Paco on Taekolo or each of Angme. Or can be ama peto me. In the Munka Jena Mu impeto Nyanjonakano. We are now arranging for a new place, new room. Until this thing will just pass, we don't know. We can't survive there.
So he's one of the victims here. As you heard him say, he says, "Wopetome." That's in God translates as they just hang around wherever that they can find. He says his wife and child hang around somewhere. He also hangs around somewhere until day breaks, and then they continue their journey in search of a new place they can call home. That's what he's been saying. Let me talk to this gentleman also. Ofane bon oyabi
Ofane.
Any nibia if insure ekumo tudie ke otu eku
ofane mi no enyo na eku
enyo
recently no
maybe
recently no that ambafi ne temporary one she no e wow one time I'm feeling boy come back for temporary I'm feeling e papa e ja can sure always say September na ke we say e young we work we no she ke am ba no come market this how insure you am smart about we she come about we ko no no try am ba fi awon ko she ba o wa ja ke wo chuji enkumo bia ne nkabo you na sane ko nwene ma ya ne chumo she ni no aka am mfe ni e wo sa sane ma ko no ni ya no dan ma fem ni ma ya ne chumo
aka shia ke ba ke kenyan low here na ke blocks e kuma jole Germany are floor blocks
ofa na ma we no ko fie ye any blocks e jole je Germany okay imbe Germany she ko otehin a few Germany yo mi na ken ya so mo kemba 10 o'clock me Frank Nana wo obanyo chonsho na ekwe by 3 o'clock allow 4 down ne ko instead of ni oba wo because of was more about load ni na she ene efetumo insure ekeba ni wo Germany ken sure keba be ba low wo makpa me fa me na me po min ke contractor ke ko after e ja ke e wa NFA after any way, no water and afia, or me pa contractor for keep ask mo square FT blog and you could not a radically like a mini one FT blog, a no your work.
And so he was just answering a question about an issue of sand winning, which came up in that earlier report we showed to you in the past couple of days. But fortunately, just like I said, in the past couple of minutes that we arrived here, the project manager here at the site, together with a few of his officers, have arrived in. As you can see, the excavators working now. He's just joining me for a brief, comment on this. Sir, grateful that you could speak to us here on JoyNews, sir. Tell me, really, how has the situation, how and why has the situation been allowed to degenerate up until this point?
You see, normally, sea waves are extremely high in August and September. And then with the global warming, the waves are even higher. We could see in other European countries how the sea is causing havoc. So that has increased the wave height and the erosion of the area which we have been contracted to operate. So what we are doing now is we have to eliminate or minimize the effect of the erosion. So if you could see, I've arranged some boulders, big boulders, parallel to the beach. That is to minimize the erosion while we are doing the construction. But what is happening is because of the extremely high waves, still the effect is not so much felt. But the other thing which is worrying me is, as with the construction is going on, the sand is building up. But the inhabitants here are winning the sand. There were instances when I came in the afternoon, they were using tricycles to take the sand. I used my pickup to block them. They organized themselves, then pushed my pickup away, and then they went away. They nearly even beat my driver. A fellow worker also, when he asked them to stop the sand winning, they asked him whether he had brought it from Keta. And sometimes in the night, they call me that the people are winning sand. I've talked to the assemblyman, to the MCE, and then to the chiefs and the inhabitants around. But finally, what happens is, when you go along the line, you see that it is relatives of the chiefs, and then those living along the beach who have been winning the sand, and it's not helping me.
I understand the point that you just made, but this project was supposed to have been completed in 2019. We're in 2021, almost 2 years since then. How is it that you have not completed? I mean, if you're completed, we'll not be talking about what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. What happens is that we have been awarded a contract to make a revetment of 2 kilometers. And the revetment is a parallel wall to the beach. So wherever we reach, if they are fishermen, they cannot have access to the sea. So they approached me and I said, there's nothing I can do. I'm a contractor. They have to see their parliamentarian. They go to Works and Housing. And there is Works and Housing who ask the consultants to solve the problem for them. So we're there when the consultant asked us to stop at 1.6 kilometers and change for another design, which is a groin. They asked us to make 2 groins. The groin is a structure which goes into the sea.
Well, that's Manuel Kranting, the reporting on the situation at Glefe. There's certainly more to that, and we'll be bringing you updates in our subsequent bulletins. But right now, though, we're taking a break on News Desk to bring you business news. Do stay tuned in.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The Chartered Institute of Credit Management is charging boards and executives of financial institutions to give credit professionals their independence and free hand to work to reduce the creation of bad or non-performing loans. The Institute also wants financial institutions to adhere to strict credit policies when appraising loan applications as well as conducting due diligence. There's more in this report.
The Chartered Institute of Credit Management believes efficient credit management is very vital in the smooth operations and sustainability of businesses, particularly financial institutions. According to the Executive Secretary, Ejapon Amo, the standards of credit management practices must not be breached if we are to achieve an effective credit management environment.
Each and every organization have what we call credit policy or credit manual, which it is being guided or it guide them to undertake their credit work effectively or efficiently. Now, if as a practitioner within the banking space, you are not acting in accordance with what has been stated in the credit policy or the credit manual, it means you are contravening the rules that your own organization or your own institution prescribed. So, in relation to that, the regulators, which includes Bank of Ghana, realize that most of these organizations are not acting in accordance with these prescribed policies.
Mr. Amo also expressed worry about the undue pressure on credit officers from the board and executives of financial institutions that result in bad loans, though he applauded the current management of the Bank of Ghana for the numerous policies and guidelines implemented to address issues of third-party transactions, among others. He wants the central bank to crack the whip.
Back to credit part of the whole thing. We believe that as an organization, once you extend credit based on your credit policy, the procedure that you use to assess the person, the approach that you use to do the recovery should be in conformity with the standards that the regulator has prescribed. Most of these institutions don't have the human capital, but I would say they refuses to appreciate the ethical aspects of the practice, because we believe that credit is supposed to go through a process, because credit management is a cycle. You start from the origination or the assessment process, then you come back to the recovery part. I get in it. Sometimes credit officers will do whatever they're supposed to do, but somebody elsewhere will influence them to change their position in terms of their decision as to whether we should extend that credit lines to the person or not. Somebody at the head, corporate level, maybe a board member, a senior management member, or a senior executive member of the company, we say, oh, you go ahead. The credit officer knew that this loan will go bad, but because he has been influenced by a certain authority, then the person will just say, okay.
The Chartered Institute of Credit Management trains and empower credit management professionals to help identify and minimize risk in credit management and overall non-performing loans.
All right, there's more business news, as always, on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. That's it behind me. Let me just give you an idea which other stories are making headlines. Banks BPT shoot up 27% to 4.9 billion in August 2021, according to the Bank of Ghana. And the Bank of Ghana to gradually phase out 1 cedi and 2 cedi notes. You can read more about that on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Stay tuned.
All right, and that'll be all for News Desk. I'm Israel Aye. Do stay tuned in for the rest of our programs.